Hello YouTube friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan, I'm with Dream9 Design, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really beautiful honeycomb Tunisian stitch. So you will need a Tunisian style crochet hook. Today I'm going to be using a 6mm. To practice you can use a normal size hook, but when I do get into my later projects you will need a larger, longer hook. So you will also need some 4-weight yarn. And now today I'm just going to go through the step-by-steps of how to do this stitch. We're not going to be making anything in particular, but there are a few things that I want to point out before we start. Now I'm going to use my needle here just to point out. So you're going to see these bars and then what looks like kind of a space here, and then a bar and a space and a bar and a space. Now we are going to be working 2 stitches. This will be our front normal stitch, and then this is going to be our purl stitch. So I'm just going to point that out before we get started. So let's go ahead and grab our hook and our yarn and begin today's tutorial. So to begin, leave yourself a little bit of a tail so we have that to sew in, and we're going to start with a normal slip stitch. Now, if you do not know how to do a slip stitch, go ahead and hit the link above here, and I do have a video for that. Now we're going to do a normal chain, so just for this demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. So go ahead and chain 10 and meet me back here. All right, so I have chained 10. Now I'm going to add 1 more stitch, so we have a total of 11. Now we're going to skip this first stitch, and into the next stitch we're going to push our hook through, yarn over, and draw up a loop. Now we're going to keep that on our hook. So now we should have 2 loops on our hook. Now going into the next stitch, we're going to go through, yarn over, pull up a loop, and hold that on. Now you simply want to do this all the way down your work, just going in, pulling up a loop and holding it on. So we're going to do that into each of our chain stitches, so you'll have a total of 10 at the very end of this row. And here's our last one. Okay, so that's what this should look like. Now this is for the first round. So at the end of every round, when we start to go do our pass back, we will always yarn over and pull through 1 loop. So it's kind of like our chain stitch basically. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops on our hook, 1 and 2. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops on our hook, 1 and 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. So what we're doing now is we're working back down. We're working all of these stitches off of our hook. Okay, so just continue to do that all the way to the very end here. Let me drop some more yarn. All right, so now you see these bars here. Now this is where we're going to be working. Now we're going to be working between purl stitches and knit stitches. Okay, so we're going to begin by doing the purl stitch, and we're going to work it into this first bar, not the one directly next to our hook, but right here. So normally we would have our yarn to the back, but what we're going to do is have that pulled to the front, and we're going to go into that stitch right here from the front. Now we want to let our yarn come around. We need to wrap it around and draw up a loop, just like that. Now we're not going to drop it. Now we want to pull our yarn back to the back. Now into this next stitch, we're going to do a simple stitch. So we're going to go through the bar with our yarn in the back, yarn over, and pull up a loop. So now we're going to be alternating all the way down between purl and knit stitches. So now we want to move our yarn to the front. You can hold it with your finger if you'd like that. Then we're going to go through this very next bar. So you see all the way through here, our next stitch. Let our yarn go to the front. We're going to wrap it around, so you want to see that it's going in the front part of the stitch, and draw up a loop. Now remember, we're not dropping these. Now pull it back to the back side. go into the next stitch, just like that, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, so we're going to do the purl stitch one more time, and then I'm going to let you guys complete this row. Go into the next stitch, move your yarn forward, wrap it around, and draw up a loop. Okay, so the next stitch will be a knit stitch, a purl stitch, a knit stitch, a purl stitch, and then you'll end with a knit stitch at the very end here. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you back here. Stitch right here. So now we're going to yarn over and pull through one. Remember, yarn over, pull through one. Okay. Now we're going to do the same as we did for our normal pass back. So now we're going to go through two, yarn over, go through two, yarn over, go through two, yarn over, go through two, and go ahead and continue to do this all the way down the row. Oops. So now we're back for the third row. So here we have a purl stitch, which is what we started with, and this one is a knit stitch. You can tell because there's this little bump right here in the front, right there, and this one's smooth. So now we want to knit into the purl stitches and we want to purl into the knit stitches. So since we started with a knit last time, or excuse me, since we started with a purl, we're going to do a knit stitch. So we're just going to go in with our yarn to the back and pull up a loop. Okay, so now into this next stitch we want to do a purl. So just like we did before, pull our yarn to the front, go through, wrap it around, and pull it through. The next stitch we're going to do a knit stitch, just like normal, purl stitch, knit stitch, get a little bit closer, purl. So then at this row, since we started with a knit stitch, we will end with a purl stitch. So just continue to work this all the way down. And it kind of helps if you like hold when you draw up so it doesn't get too tight. That's a little trick that I did find. All right, so here's our last stitch. We're going to do a knit stitch. Okay, so go ahead and count your stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so now we're going to, let's see, did we do that right? A knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl, knit. So now we're going to yarn over. We're going to go through one, yarn over, go through two, 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 all the way back down the row. Just like that. All right, so because we started with a knit stitch last time, we're going to begin this row with a purl stitch. So every row you're just alternating. You knit your knit stitches and you purl your purl stitches. So it's just alternating, and you just want to make sure that you count, make sure that you have the same amount of stitches in every single row. And I will meet you back at the end of this row. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You should have 10 stitches. Excuse me, I did pick up a stitch before, so that's why it is important just to count your stitches. So you yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through two. So this is going to be the same every single time. So it's just alternating the rows as you go. So when you get to the beginning of this row, since we started with a purl stitch, we're going to begin with a knit stitch. So you just continue to do this over and over again. Continue to practice that because I do have a pattern coming up. And as you work up the stitches, it just works out really, really nice. So this is done with a cotton yarn. You can tell a difference, obviously, between the yarns. But if you do that with an acrylic or something nice, it will show up to look like this. So just continue to practice that stitch, knitting the knit stitches, purling the purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Okay, so then on your second pass, this is a knit stitch, so you'll purl that one, and on the purl stitch you'll knit, and that's how you get this really, really beautiful beautiful pattern here. So please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought of today's tutorial. Give this video a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much, you guys.